everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, CardHoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Ruben Bressler.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I am lovely, because we're talking about double freaking masters. Double Masters had their debut, or had some of its debut today, and it was a lot.
Yeah, they put a lot of juice in this particular set. We knew that this was going to be really juiced, but it was even more so than I think we were even anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of excitement points in there, to be sure, and it's going to be a huge, huge seller. But it is also a little bit disappointing in that, like, the more exciting these are, they're a lot harder to draft and get for limited.
Yeah, I mean, these are the types of sets that are made to put, copies of cards into the wild. Like, reprint things, let the price go down, let the supply go up, change things around. Now, in terms of changing things around, boy, have they. From not the craziest idea and stuff that we've seen before in various amounts, but the idea that you are to mark on your cards because there is one new card in the set. Just one. Everything else is a reprint. But from the Scene Double Masters 2022 article here from Mark Rosewater, you see the card Cryptic Spires. This is going to be in every pack of Double Masters, like at least the draft booster box. Cryptic Spires is a common land that says as you create your deck, circle 2 of the colors below, because below the text box, if you're listening to us on a podcast, there's a little gray bar, and there is one of each mana symbol in Wooburg order in a horizontal line. And they say, circle 2 of those colors as you build your deck, which is important, not as it's in your hand, before you shuffle up and play. It enters the battlefield tapped, and you tap to add 1 mana of either of the circled colors. Now, as we were talking in the pre-show, it feels like this is a watershed moment in that we had checklist cards. You checked a little box or filled in a little thing and it's fine, whatever. But to actually circle something and then have rules text referencing what you were drawing on the card just feels like a whole nother thing.
It's definitely interesting. The one thing I like about this system is that, it's a little tough in that once you mark on it, it's no longer any good, because it's going to be really hard to cross that out and change it if you were to rebuild your deck. But one of the things I think that is going to be pretty key that get around this is what do we have to change reasonably often that will keep it so we don't need to have a ton of these, and that's your sleeves. So I think what you could do is take a little Sharpie and mark your sleeve for the correct space that you're trying to use this for, and every time you change change this out of a deck into a different deck, you can do it that way too. So it is a really weird thing, but I think it's also maybe not going to be super annoying long term if you're careful.
So I have a pitch for our next altar sleeve, which is that we do the art of the 2 colors that we want in the illustration hands for this card. So am I making sense? So basically it would be like a tiny illustration of me, and my hand, one hand would be underneath the red and one hand would be underneath the white, right? Like doing like this.
Okay.
With like little fireballs coming up from my hands.
I could see that, and then we'd be holding the other colors, and one would be holding black.
And so I think that's the future for this card. Is again, like my neurodivergency didn't let me take stickers off of the sticker sheets. I still have unused stickers.
Oh yeah.
So if you're telling me to draw on my Magic cards, you got the wrong audience member.
I also do not stick my stickers.
And maybe that'll come up with Unfinity, hey. But, with the idea that we're starting to draw shapes on our cards, and they're telling you to draw shapes on the cards is just, it's a little wild. I'm not shocked,
it says
but I'm
to
certainly...
circle 2. It says to circle 2 of them. It doesn't say, as you create your deck, comma, is quite the phrase.
That's a phrase. That's a hell of a phrase. And you have to mark it on the deck list if you're playing in a professional or competitive environment.
Oh, interesting.
Which I thought was neat, right? So cool. That's pretty cool. But Lord, man, they've turned on the excitement pump for this one, and it is flowing. Ladies and gentlemen, they have reprinted, we're going to bring it up here, Imperial Seal, the Portal of Three Kingdoms, $1,700 standard printing, $700 judge foil, the most expensive not reprinted reprintable card ever in Magic is here finally. And if you don't know, it's a slow vampiric tutor. It's 1 black for a mythic sorcery. It says search your library for a card, then shuffle, put that card on top, you lose 2 life. And vampiric tutor does the same thing at instant speed. The portal stuff was going all at sorcery speed. This is why that exists. And Lord knows why Wizards didn't pull the trigger until now, but ching ching. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this one wasn't the most obvious bet to be in the set. I think that the most obvious bet to be in the set was Dockside. They reprinted Dockside Extortionist finally.
They did.
I feel like that one was the most obvious reprint. Imperial Seal, the thing about it is that it is the most expensive card. So when you're going to do the most exciting set, you go, all right, this is the target. But is it a bridge too far? Right? Is $750 for a pack foil? Has it gone too far already? Is it already too far out to sea? And the answer is no. The answer is we've gotten to a point where we just are continuing to amp up the excitement. And the fact that we get Imperial Seal in a pack is kind of wild. I believe that the next most expensive now to keep an eye on is Warrior's Oath, which is Final Fortune, but for Portal 3 Kingdoms, which is about $475, which is a big step down from the $750 that this was.
Oh my gosh, that's so much money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. Now, Dockside Extortionist is reprinted in this and does have both the regular version and the borderless and the etched foil, which looks amazing. Like, this is like a $70+ card by itself, which is going to be nutty. The Imperial Seal, like, when they're so crazy expensive, generally it's like $50 is like, where it goes. Like $50 is a very expensive mythic. Like, it's just, that's a pricey mythic right there. And it kind of goes up from there. But I would guess $50 is kind of where it's going to land. Dockside probably going to stay 60+ because that is what it is. This card should have been in Commander Legends 2. Wizards, you screwed it up. You didn't do a great job on Commander Legends 2. The value in it is just wonky. The fact that was there hardly any like reprints that anyone cared about in the set at all. Not like really. The backgrounds weren't enough. Like, I thought the backgrounds were going to be super cool and snazzy, and someone's going to have a really interesting one, but it doesn't seem like people care much about the backgrounds, and that was kind of like one of the big motifs of the whole set. So between a few Mythic Dragons, like, Commander Legends 2 was up here, one of the best sets, literally one of the best sets of the last 5 years. And
I mean,
Commander Legends 2.
I don't think that the recent Commander Legends was meant to be a reprint, high ticket, high excitement pack. It was meant to be the second version of the D&D hype. And I think they captured that well enough. And I got to play some of it at DreamHack, and it was actually quite fun. And the packs weren't overly expensive compared to a master set with that hyped up, juiced, whatever hose you were just talking about. So I think it's more about the D&D more than it is the reprints, and that's why we're getting the reprints here.
Well, the reprints were in the original Commander Legends set, along with the Commander Legends stuff. But this being the D&D stuff, I'm starting to be like, my concern right now is that D&D is sort of another word for like bad. Like, D&D is another word for like core set.
Interesting.
Where it's powered down. Like, the cards in these D&D sets, the first one, AFR, again, replaced the core set. This set is it's powered down. Like, perhaps
unpopular opinion, I'm okay with that.
Is that okay?
I think I'm okay with that, and I'll tell you why. I don't want competitive Dungeons and Dragons. Unrelated to Magic the Gathering. I don't want competitive Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't think that the crowd that is interested in D&D is interested in the competitive or the uber collectible nature. I think that those are two different audiences, and you're catering to two different groups. So
That's
I would
interesting.
much rather the D&D Commander Legends Adventures in the Forgotten Realms cards be bad, but interesting and expensive.
I would say powered down, right? And I wouldn't say necessarily bad, but they're just not to that like high level of power that we've seen from other sets.
Totally agree.
So,
and that's kind of normal. We always used to get a core set that was powered down and a little less, money and over the top. And and I think that was always fine for both limited and for constructed. In fact, I think it's nice to see basically the core set change into something that's more interesting and unique. And they actually put more time and effort into making mechanics and stuff where they didn't do it before in core sets. They just gave us a couple of tramplers and then called it a day. So yeah, and from a limited perspective, I'm totally fine with powered down sets.
Now, while we're talking about D&D sets and AFR and stuff, I want to pivot a little bit early into a announcement they made about Arena. We're bringing it up here on the screen. For the MTG Arena announcements from June 15th, Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate pre-orders begin next week. This is a whole set that is going to be based on a lot of the cards in the set. However, they designed 81 new cards with truly wild mechanics, which they're going to do for the first time here. But here's where it gets really crazy. They're going to use the same name, mana costs, power toughness. Has this stayed the same between the different versions? Because what we have here is a legendary creature from the set with nothing in its text box. And is going to be replaced with an entirely different effect. And that also, much like drawing circles, feels like another watershed moment.
So this was actually something that was done in another game, albeit a digital game, but it is kind of interesting because what if you had a set that had a couple of different options on it and you could pick, before you play your game or build your deck. So for example, if this white card had, trample or flying, and then when you put it in your sleeve, you can use a Sharpie to highlight which one you want. And when you draft, you get to do some really cool, unique things. And this could open up a lot of replayability in these sets, both in limited and constructed. So you don't necessarily, to make something interesting, you don't need to give it flying and lifelink. You can start giving people choices. And, that's going to be a little hard on your sleeves. And but I think that that's a very unique way to change and alter Magic.
Now, as you can see here on the screen, this is a different title. Instead of being Vlokith's Champion, it is Githyanki Warrior. It is 4 mana instead of 3 mana. It's a 2/4 instead of a 3/3. So they're changing a lot of these abilities up, but it's the exact same type line. And so to have 2 cards, again, they didn't change the art. You should have changed the art, for real. I mean, I understand budgets are budgets and timelines are crunchy and all that stuff, but if you're going to do this, I really think they should have changed the art. I just don't. Using the same art for 2 different cards feels really weird. It just feels really weird. And they're going to do it again with Wheel Pack-Bound Duelist.
I think I agree with what you're saying.
Just feels weird.
About you want to have different art, because if you have the same art, there's a cognitive dissonance.
Right. There's a thing in your brain that's what that card does, right?
Right, exactly.
And
I will reserve judgment until we see exactly what this is. I mean, but I agree with you that it does feel, the mouthfeel is not good on the art staying the same with everything else changing.
Right.
Except for the first half of the name.
Now, one of the things I mentioned when I pointed, all this stuff was announced, was that the Monster Manual card right here, as you can see, has been changed. They have nerfed it. Instead of doing its ability any time, you can only do it as a sorcery, which is fine. Nothing else about it changed. But what I said was, you probably shouldn't show how you nerfed cards when you're showcasing the new cards that are coming to the client. Now, you can nerf them. You can nerf them all day. You can nerf them and you can buff them. But if you're going to choose cards to showcase the ones you're bringing over. Wouldn't you want to showcase a buffed card, or something that looks more interesting than like, we made it worse, check it out? Like, it just feels really odd. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels odd, but I also like applaud them to some level to, for the transparency. It's like, hey, these are cards that are coming over and we've modified them accordingly.
We've tweaked them.
I'm okay with that.
It certainly was bold, no doubt about it. Now, there is going to be a Baldur's Gate, Alchemy Horizons, Baldur's Gate early access. It says if you were involved previously, you can be involved again. So I'll be taking a look for that email. I'm sure I'll miss it and you'll yell at me and I'll find it. It's fine. But overall, very cool. But what happens when the artwork stays the same, everything else changes? Like, wouldn't the artwork, like the thing, right? One of the things that kept you anchored to a certain card. And
the silly thing is they've started changing the artwork so willy-nilly that like it's been almost annoying, that it feels like this is the one time you probably should have done the change. Or made something to like note it. Maybe it's like, take a card that was not full art before and give it the full art treatment, and that's the change, something along those lines. So it's just very strange to me that they have been so loose with art changes, getting 2-3 arts per set per card for 15-20 cards per set. It's just a lot.
Maybe instead of the 14th Wandering Emperor art, we can get the second art for this character.
Right.
Or the first art for this new card that technically is not at all the same card.
Exactly. So, but to touch on here, to look at the variants. Now, the variants are just insane. Like, they're sick, they're gorgeous, they're going to be worth a bunch of money, largely. Seeker of the Way here, some of them wanted to note that this is the return of Douglas Schuler to Magic. Douglas Schuler hasn't illustrated a Magic card in a very, very long time, as I understand it. And he was one of the old school, OGs. And it's nice to see him back on a Magic card.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting a lot of the old school artists back for this set. I mean, you look at the Imperial Seal, and that's Mark Tedeen, ladies and gentlemen, coming back. So we got a lot of people returning for this Double Masters.
I mean, Teferi's Protection is just money. Like, it's just great. That Moldrifter looks great. That Thought Scour is super cute. I think the Imperial Seal looks amazing. Liliana, the Last Hope, especially that special foiling thing they have, looks absolutely incredible. The etched versions are also going to look great. That Dockside Extortionist is going to be worth $1 bajillion. I love that they did both Rampant Growth and Bloom Tender. I thought that was sweet. But you really get into the big monies when you get to the Wrenn and Sixes. And also the Kozileks, and this Mana Vault. Oh my God. Y'all seen this Mana Vault?
Yeah, it's really good.
That top is really pretty.
Oh, that top's insane.
Top as well. I think that
amazing.
Yeah, and they put top at rare, which I thought was really good instead of mythic.
That's a $50 card.
It's a $50 rare in the set. I mean, they've given us some misses on Mythic already. We've got Mizzix of the Ismagus at Mythic, and then the Nest Tender Lady.
And Moldrotha is like whatever.
Moldrotha is like $5. Yeah, it's not great. But we got, Allosaurus Shepherd, Bloom Tender, Mana Vault, Sensei's Top, Wrenn and Six. I mean, the hits are just going to keep coming. This is just the first day.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get all the good goods. And again, if they're front-loading a lot of this, I'm okay with that. You want to kick it off right. You want those people, and particularly your local game stores who have to pay good money to get this product, to give them something exciting to open. And they're doing, again, all the excitement numbers. Going up.
Yeah.
And going back to that Seeker of the Way, that's a Seeker of the Way at common. There have actually been some really interesting rarity downshifts already seen in Double Masters 2. The most exciting of which might be Seeker of the Way. We would have to...
Seeker of the Way is good. Also, there's some red cards here. Dark Dweller Oracle went from rare to common.
Yeah, wow.
That was a big one.
That's huge.
Yeah, Lava, let's see, did they have it here? Lava Coil also went down to
Lava
common.
Coil went down to common, which is huge.
That's a big one.
I also think, there's a number of really big ones, but the other one that I saw people talking about was Gnarlback Rhino, I think, which enables for some interesting combo potential in Pauper. So there's some really interesting things happening.
Yeah, Experiment 1 in common is big game. So I'm excited about that. But
Stompy is really good in Pauper too, so that's
yeah.
cool.
But Phyrexian Altar, like that's an $80 card minimum that just got busted. So that's going to be incredible. The Allosaurus Shepherd, as you mentioned, looks amazing. I'm going to pull this up here if it will let me. All right, so you guys can take a look at all these incredible versions of these cards, which look great. And again, the Atla Polani at least is a rare, so it isn't a Mythic Cavern of Souls.
Oh, that's true.
Cavern of Souls is the giant one. Like, that's another huge money card. This Mana Vault's going to be worth $1 bajillion. And I just think it's great, and I'd love to see it kicked off well.
Yeah, if they're make it, if it's going to be exciting, then they've got to come with the excitement, and they certainly did.
Like, what is a foil-etched Phyrexian Altar going to look like? I mean, like, is that $200? Like, I don't even know, man. That's going to be a lot of money. A lot of money. So yeah, sweet day one. Let's go. I'm excited. I love it. Let's move on here to gathering the Townsfolk, because we're just getting started with super cool new stuff to look at. There's a new secret lair, everybody, as there tends to be at basically every month of our lives now. And this month's June Superdrop gets to show off plenty of new options. Do any of these appeal to you guys so far?
I want to talk about the Livia Prima Super Drop, or the Livia Prima
sure Artist series. Yeah.
Artist series. Artist who has done a number of things for Magic the Gathering in the past and has a big history in gaming, and did a version of Mikaeus, Avacyn, Glissa, and Olivia here, 4 different versions of these characters.
Right.
And I just thought it was really interesting, the style that she chose to do here, which are sort of biographical, artistic depictions of these characters' histories. Mm-hmm. You look at the art for, Achroma, not Avacyn.
Right.
You look at the Achroma art, and I believe that this is the first depiction of Nivea on a piece of Magic card art. Nivea being Ixidor's wife, who inspired him to create Achroma in the first place. Achroma was a platonic ideal made manifest. He was the reality sculptor, and he sculpted reality. And you look at this, the moment of Vorinclex peeking over Glissa's shoulder and turning her into the traitor. You look at these histories of these characters, and I thought that these were really well done. And I just really appreciated the way that these arts were crafted.
Nice.
Yeah, the art is really pretty, for sure. I really love the white, the triple white angel spell there. That has some top tier art for sure.
Oh yeah, Chroma Angel of Wrath is an all-time banger, and this one will probably be one of the most expensive versions of it, which is really awesome. The Mikaeus the Unhallowed is sort of like the big money for the set. This is generally a $25 to $30+ card. The Glissa Sunseeker is the first reprint ever since Mirrodin. Still a couple dollars, but regardless, it's sweet. And Olivia Mobilized for War is a card that I wanted to be good and never was. Just really never was. It made me sad. But overall, they have a huge bunch of options. The Pride 2022, by the way, is still available for the next 13 days or so. So you should check that out. But we'll kind of start here from the top down, I suppose. There is a Volkan Baga series here that you can purchase, which are absolutely gorgeous. One thing about it, which I thought was neat, is first of all, this Patron Wizard is a portrait of Donato Giancola. Which I thought was amazing because they had worked together when he was when Volkan Baga was sort of coming up as an artist, and got to paint them here, which was incredible. All of the flavor text is in German for the cards that have flavor text because he's German, which is great. Berserk here is huge. That's plenty of money. That's a $30-$40 card, as well as the first reprinting of Verduran Enchantress since 9th edition.
That's a shocking fact. I couldn't believe that when I heard that.
That's incredible. So, and lastly here we have Elspeth Knight Errant, which again is one of the sweetest planeswalkers, and and was fun to see and to live through people understanding how unbelievably good she was back in the day.
Yeah, Elspeth is a bit of a fan favorite. It's one of the like #1 planeswalkers for some of the cosplayers. So yeah, it's good to see Elspeth's getting reprints and alternate arts, certainly.
Yeah, it's a hell of a Magic card. It's fantastic. But let's see here. Going back, we have a artist series of Chris Ron, and for his, he does a series here with Primeval Titan, which is still banned in Commander because that card's just problematic.
I mean, maybe someday it'll get unbanned. I don't think that it's unlikely. I don't think it's impossible for Primeval Titan to get unbanned in Commander.
I don't think it's impossible. It's been like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
Hunt Master of the Fells, and of course Ravager of the Fells on the other side. Platinum Angel, which by the way is like always a good money card. That card's like $10 to $12 no matter where you find it. So this probably going to be good 20 plus because these cards are sweet. As well as Kozilek the Great Distortion, which is another like first time reprint and super cool version, and I love it.
Yeah.
So those are neat. You have now. What do you guys think about the Tokyo lands?
I mean, they're cool, but again, I'm confused as to who wants these. Who wants one of each of these specialty lands? Like, that's what's confusing to me always. Is it's literally only for the guy that has 35 dual lands and rampant growths in his Dragon deck or whatever.
Yeah, if you have a lot of EDH decks, there's sometimes, an EDH deck that has one island, and so you can buy these kinds of things. I think for the most part, this is just going to be the hardcore collectors, and I imagine that these lands will eventually be worth high amounts because I don't think people are going to want to buy them as is. I think Wizards is really missing out on a premium opportunity to make these 5 individual secret lairs that come with 10 lands. That would be an absolute hit, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, if Wizards would like to say they're listening to feedback, for God's sake, if you offer a cool land as a secret lair, give us the ability to bump it in quantity. There's something that's not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, let me add another $10-20 and get 10 of these instead of one of these. Like, let me bump up in price. There is a psychological thing about making it like really obvious that you should bump up your order from X dollar to Y dollar. This is marketing stuff, but like, if you're in already for the $30 or whatever, you're probably in for 50 if you get 10 of the island as well as one of the others. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, look at the price we have here. This is $6 a land.
But
just let me buy any number of them for $6 a land, right? Like,
do that
if
too.
You can print them to order, and I'm like, oh man, I want to have my entire cube be these lands, right?
Right.
If
the
you're
only
charge
problem
me
with that,
yep.
I don't think they can do print to order any number of lands you want $6 a piece, because then Wizards is now a vendor and someone has to manually do those things. And I think that selling
you want
singles,
them in packs. You want them in like set.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
products.
Selling singles is not a thing that Wizards wants to be getting into, but I think that selling a secret lair that includes 10 islands is very reasonable. And whether you buy 1 or 2 packs, I think that is where the next step is.
Yeah, you can't tell me that there aren't a bunch of people that would buy 10 of these Mount Fuji mountains for $60.
Well, I would argue that Wizards is very much in the selling singles business because that's what these are.
Well,
but
I meant like individuals. Like, I want to buy 1 mountain, and I also want to buy 1 of the Elspeths, and nobody's going to be packaging orders of these individual cards.
Right.
That makes sense.
So the next option here is Rule the Room, which is really cool. It has an Arcanus the Omnipotent, a Queen Marchesa, Bramaz King of Ereskos, and Sovereign Queen of the Golgari, which was hot at one point in time. But the one I
like these artistic styles as well. This is another sort of like mid-level shot from like basically what we have in our show here, which you don't really see on Magic cards a ton.
That's true.
This is the art I like the most out of all of them. I also really like my, period pieces and stuff. So it's got a unique art style mixed with this sort of like royalty type thing, which always appeals to me in my books and movies. So I'm really into it. I do wish, that the cards maybe were a little bit more exciting. I mean, this is, Brimaz was great, but like didn't end up really finding much of a home.
Right. This one's kind of a stretch for $30. Like, I'm not saying that these cards won't be worth the 30 because secret lair versions of stuff have been shown traditionally to be worth more, just period. But regardless, it's kind of
They
An
could have put
A.
one really cool thing in here, like the one got the Elspeth. I mean, asking for a lily is maybe a little greedy, but something cool here, like Liliana with the crown looking sort of like the evil queen. Even if they gave us like the weakest Liliana, would be pretty darn sweet.
It would be nice. I saved the best for last here for, is it Kellogg's Loops? Kellogg's Loops? This is a secret lair that if you are going to buy a secret lair, make it this one at least, because the value is just ridiculous. It only has 4 cards in it. Retreat to Coral Helm, which is whatever. But it does have Utopia Sprawl. It's a $5 common. It has Burgeoning, which is like a $30 card. And it has Mystic Remora, the first reprint of it in almost 30 years. And the Mystic Remora foil is the only foil version of Mystic Remora that will exist. It's harder to come up with a slam dunk that is as obvious as this one. That wasn't like the Praetors, for example. That is just like it's value on value on value.
I mean, I don't know much about these cards specifically because they're not really in a format that I play, but I absolutely adore this art on the Burgeoning.
Yeah.
That is an amazing style, and I love everything about this art. I want to buy a print of this.
Yeah, this is great. And that Mystic Remora is absolutely gorgeous. And that foil is going to be a $40 to $50 card in a year. Mark my words. Check back in. Let's talk. Because it's just a slam dunk. So I think if you just get one, you get this one. I think if you get 2, you get the Tokyo lands. Because again, I think people are going to underestimate them. I think that's going to be like $1 million one day. Because that's like cool lands just kind of do that. Like, because they can go in any deck. But yeah, this is the new Secret Lair stuff that they're selling you, and if you want some, it is available at secretlair.wizards.com.
The other thing about the Kellogg's Loops Secret Lair is that Kellogg's Loops is a well-known artist outside of the Magic sphere. Has about 1 million followers on YouTube for doing watercolor paintings.
Nice.
1.3 million followers on Instagram. Independent of Magic the Gathering. So for all of those reasons and the other ones referenced, that's probably the best of the secret lairs.
So now, is it weird that we're going to have a Magic 30th anniversary birthday party? It came out in August 93.
Huh?
Right? It's
Sure.
2022.
Did it?
It came out no, trust me. It came out in August 93.
So it came out in August 20.
It might be the anniversary of the start of the company, or when the creation team started building the first set.
Right.
I'm okay with it.
It's certainly very interesting. But regardless, Magic 30 is coming. Let me bring it up here. I thought it was on there, but it was the wrong one. Here we go.
I'm sure someone has been working at Wizards for 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure. Save the date. Magic 30 is a party 3 decades in the making. Goodness gracious. Las Vegas, October 28th through the 30th is going to be a heck of a thing. There's going to be the same people who ran PAX. This is the Reed Pop people. There's going to be a modern tournament that feeds into a top 8 beta draft. Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Top 8 beta draft.
Modern into top 8 beta draft is a delightful combination.
Look, at Wizards, I don't know how much. I don't know. It's literally like Willy Wonka. Like, there is a magical warehouse filled with old product, just filled with, and I've only heard rumors of it, just little whispers of there's cases of Urza's Saga or whatever over here, and there's cases of Ice Age over there, and there's a box of beta that happens to be hanging out, and it's magical. It's practically search for the Golden City or whatever. But regardless, the Return to the Command Zone, dedicated play area, and if Commander Aficionado is going to be sweet. Unfinity events hosted by Mark Rosewater. The World Championship is going to be there. An exclusive secret lair for those who are in attendance. And by the way, you should definitely buy it. And mystery booster drafts, amongst other cool stuff. Panels, interviews, special content. And this is the part where we'll try to get in touch with the people who are doing this stuff. And if there's anything we can do, I think that'd be super rad.
Now I looked a little bit at it, and it looks like they might be selling specific day badges, sort of more like a convention. So it is not like a typical Grand Prix, so be prepared for that, and be prepared for that to hurt your wallet a lot more than what you are used to seeing. it would not surprise me to see, $80 to $100 day tickets.
Yeah, they're it's $30 and single day general admission starting at 75. I'm sorry, virtual tickets are $30 and single day general admission are 75. So there'll be weekend passes, VIPs, all that stuff.
And this is the new normal. You're gonna the days of walking into a convention center and getting free entertainment are over. You need to pay a ticket to be there. This is just the way we live now. And
I
I'm all
do think
for it.
Magic Mike should try to go.
Oh, Ruben Bressler will go. I would love for Magic Mike's to go. The several previous Las Vegas Magic events that have happened, many of them have had live episodes of Magic Mike's. We would need to get into talk with whoever is the tournament organizer here, but yeah, I've already sent out some feelers about creating some content myself, seeing exactly how the stages are going to look, if there's going to be panels or anything like that. So more information surely will be coming, but I'll see you there.
Now, to put a bow on this, which I thought was neat, they note that, it's the World Championship's going to be there and whatnot. Their first post-Vegas stop on the Pro Tour is going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina in February. I thought that was awesome for the first Pro Tour of 2023. That's sweet. That's practically drivable. I'll just be able to zoom right over to the Pro Tour and hang out. That'd be neat.
So I think that the previous Charlotte Pro Tour was the Team Pro Tour, right? In 2007 or something.
Oh, that's what was in that was in South Carolina, wasn't it?
Oh, is that Charleston?
That
Not
was Charleston,
Charlotte?
I think. Yeah.
Well, never mind then. But still, cool. Very cool.
Absolutely. So, we talked about the Magic Arena announcements, and we're going to be doing the early access thing, which is cool, and we'll replace the July 5th week show as we do that, and that'll be cool. Okay. Let's see. Moving on here to the interesting Pauper format check-in here from Gavin Verhey, where the Pauper. What do they call it? The Pauper, the committee that they have who look over Pauper has looked into sort of where the format is. Oops, let me track that there, and reported in, and they note here that that Pauper is generally in a good place, right? There's obvious decks, Affinity, Fairies, Boros, and Familiars, but overall, I think it's sweet. I think some really powerful stuff is coming thanks to Double Masters 2022.
Yeah. Seems like the committee to keep an eye on the format has done their job. So well done.
Absolutely.
I've heard little to no bad feedback about any of the committees so far. So I think that was a very good move.
Now, what he also had was the bad news, that the initiative mechanic and several of the Commander Legends 2 cards won't be making their way onto Magic Online, and this to me is part of that transition out of Wizards to a third party to just keep it going. And an initiative mechanic is probably a big deal and a lot of work, and they're like, well, it's only on these few cards for these small formats, yada yada yada, and so they won't be getting that. But again, some of the downshifts in 2022 Double Masters are quite real.
Yeah, and I also think that it is obvious that the Undercity is a better dungeon for value's sake, if you can venture into it, than the other dungeons, and so keeping it out of Pauper is probably just fine.
There you go. So really quickly here to congratulate Carmen Handy for being now got a upgrade to game designer over associate game designer.
Perfect.
So congratulations on that promotion, which is great. And we definitely want to run a shout out to MTG Young Mage Rhino, who is going to have surgery and all that involves, and that can be scary and crazy, and let him know that we're thinking about him, and I'm sure he's going to do just fine. Yeah,
Rhino and Papa Mage have been members of the Magic Mike community for the entire time. I mean, we saw Rhino grow up.
Basically,
and he's basically he's a man now, and we knew him when he was 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And making content is hard. It's even harder when you're a kid with school, and it's even harder when you've got what he's got to deal with his health issues. So all the best luck with the surgery, and I know that Papa Mage said that they won't really know if it works until like several months down the line. But hey, fingers crossed. He's got more grit and determination than I do. So,
and chat's pulling for you as well. So let's go.
Papa Mage actually sent me a message, which I have not been able to respond to yet because it was right before the show, letting me know about the surgery and that the ultimate goal is that this will lead to young Mage being able to take less of his medications while still being able to function very well. And I think the reason he reached out to me is because I also have seizures. So, his journey is incredible to watch, and I wish him nothing but the best. He's putting up a hell of a fight for everything he's going through.
Yeah, Rhino's living life on hard mode, and I hate to hear that, and I hope it gets better.
Quick other shout out. We talked about Carmen, also Chris Mooney. Congratulations for getting promotion to senior game designer.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Congrats to him. Absolutely. And that's good to see. It's crazy because, I've seen these people go from either, community content up to Wizards, or being hired from Wizards from great designer searches, or being hired from Wizards from different game studios and whatnot. And to see them flourish has been really great. Very cool. Card Titan wanted to note that CommandFest Philly attendees will need proof of vaccination or a recent negative test. And I would like to note at CommandFest Orlando, we're doing literally everything the lawyers would let us do.
Yeah.
If we could do more, we would. So, just so you know, we would if we could.
Yeah, it's good that they came out with that announcement and sort of got out ahead of it.
Absolutely. All right, as we move on here to Desperate Ravings, check out our altar sleeves. Woo! Support the show using the code MAGICMICS. Let's get this. Code MAGICMICS for 5% off anything in the store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mics crew at altersleeves.com/MagicMics. And because I think I messed up and forgot them, also thanks to our sponsor, CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. Because there are a few Desperate Ravings this week, which were neat. So, popularity, right? There came out some numbers from Untapped.gg. Now, full disclosure, I use Untapped.gg. I pay for their monthly service. I think it's cool. I can see my collection and all my decks and how they do, and I think that's rad. But they use the data from Untapped.gg to know the popularity of different formats from the end of April to June 6th. This is matches played, best of 1 and best of 3 combined. There's 2 million standard matches, 500,000 Explorer, 360,000 Historic Brawl, 250,000 Historic, and 42,000 played Alchemy. Now, this isn't the end-all be-all of data and numbers. This is just what this third-party program happens to track, and the people who use the third-party program happen to play, right? And Wizards has come out and said things like, hey, Explorer is, Historic is also very, very popular. You just can't see it. We also have no idea what mobile numbers may or may not look like. And that led to a discussion of hiding said data, essentially, keeping said data private. And of course, Wizards can do whatever they want. They don't have to give access to nothing. And I think there's arguments that can be made that if Wizards were to open up access to deck or deck list or match data, that there are security concerns that they would have to, sort of essentially pay for and be worried about that weren't there before. And upkeep on a technological scale of how things scale when people are pulling that data from your servers. Cool. Now, beyond that, there's basically the question of, is more data about what's being played and how people do with those cards good or bad for Magic? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think that Wizards has this data, and so whether they choose to act on the things that they're seeing, then that's great. Now, I think as a player, it's kind of interesting to see, because it's like, oh, I want to get into a new format, especially for new players. Being able to see this, what's popular, helps you decide what to get into, possibly. But I think, in all honesty, I think the reason people would want this kind of data is to be like, haha, alchemy sucks, we told you, and that's kind of it. Mm-hmm.
And, and to me, it feels like part of, and what I wrote this morning was that it feels like it's part of Wizards' ego, and that they don't want to get caught making a bad format or whatever. But you can go to 17lands.com and you can see that Streets of New Capenna their draft format is generally your decks are better as 2-color than 3-color, which is a 3-color set. You could argue that's a failure, right? Who knows? I think the other argument to me is that I presented essentially was that we're already crunching millions of games. We're literally already crunching millions of games. If Wizards were to open the floodgates and provide us all of this extra data, I don't think it's going to flip-flop the data. I think it's just going to, concrete the data and sort of, flatten it out and make it, more even to see what's good and what's bad across, 10 million games versus 2 million games. But I don't think there's going to be anything nuts that's going to come out of it.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm swayed by the argument that, especially in the day and age of Arena, in the day and age of everything being available on the internet, that hiding data is going to do anything. I think that someone's going to scrub it. It's going to come from somewhere. So the argument of, is it good, on the one hand is moot, and on the other hand, yes, it's good, because that's what information is inherently good. What you do with it may have biases, but the information in general is good. I think that going back, for away from the big picture philosophy of is information good, is what does this say about the formats? And I think that it just says what we all knew all along, which is that the players wanted to play with all the cards that they have in real life, just play with them online. And that's what we're seeing with the popular formats online.
The only thing I want to say about, and I don't think that these numbers are incorrect or overly skewed, but I will say that what types of players are downloading deck trackers, typically more competitive minded players who aren't interested in digital only cards and historic brawl and things like that. Some of them, certainly, obviously we're seeing some traction with these numbers, but I think if I was only a brawl player or I was interested in only Arena, I would probably be a lot less likely to download the win rate deck tracker if I wasn't prepping for some sort of tournament. And where are the tournaments being seen? And that's going to be in anything that you can convert into paper.
Yeah, my most played format by a wide margin is Historic Brawl.
And that's cool, and I barely play it, right? And I have this deck tracker there, and that can
and
show
I don't.
Right. So there you go, right?
There you go.
But, and one last bit. So a lot of the arguments was also that when you have this amount of information out there, a homogenizing of the format happens really quickly. Basically, here's the best deck. They found it in less than 2 weeks. Congratulations, your format's solved. To which my reaction was, wasn't that why Alchemy exists? Is so that you can tweak things and change things if you feel like something has gone further in one direction than the other. But again, and I would also like to note, Wizards would make no more dollars if they were to open up these data floodgates, and I recognize that, and that's just kind of how it is. Let's move on here to our next topic. Just thought it was great that Post Malone paid $800,000 for an artist print of Black Lotus signed by Chris Rush. That is the sickest, most awesome card I can imagine anyone ever owning if you love Magic.
We kind of had... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's going to be a new necklace, just like the sports, the baseball, Hunter Pence wearing it as a necklace. So, yeah, Magic is getting weird. It's becoming this weird fashion icon, honestly, money status, right? When you see professional baseball players wearing it as bling, we are, it's getting to the point where it's more valuable than diamonds. People are going to, be blinging out their stuff with cards. It's so crazy. And, nerddom is now worth more than its weight in gold.
Yep.
So this is probably a great finisher topic, but I feel like the card I would want most to wear around my neck would be a foil 7th Birds.
Nice.
7th edition
That's
Birds.
A good one.
Because it's sweet. It's not crazy rare, but it's very rare.
I like that one.
It's nice.
I would pick either the empty text box foil Karn from Urza's Saga. That's a good one. Or the Starfoil JSS Glorious Anthem. That's the Japanese Glorious Anthem. Those are like, mid range. They aren't $800,000, but those are like right where I would think.
Nerd Girl, do you have anything blingy that you'd want to wear around your neck?
I don't think I would wear a Magic card around my neck in almost any circumstance.
But if you were,
right?
If it was a party and you needed to wear a Magic, and they were like, "Come on over," and you're like, "Let me get a foil XYZ."
I'll wear like a Mad Hatter hat with a switcheroo in it because that's my favorite art.
Perfect.
See, there you go. That. I like it.
Also, those old Duelist cast iron life total trackers?
Mm-hmm.
One of those. I wear one of those around my neck.
That's pretty dope. That's some old school right there. You're a real one if you know what we're talking about.
That's right.
All right, so I'm gonna run over here quickly because spoiler seasons are a lot. We know that, but I definitely want to talk about this splash damage. Ruben, again, you are into this world of D&D and tabletop and D&D accusations of bullying and blacklisting and the update from Origins. And goodness gracious, it just feels like it's so close to Magic, but so far away.
So, for those of you who are on Magic Twitter, you know that Tabletop RPG Twitter is adjacent. They're like the same.
They're very close.
They cross over a lot. And if you're on Magic Twitter and Magic social media, you may have seen some of the discussions surrounding this without anyone actually talking about it because it's very there's content warnings and it's also not everybody's business. So the long and the short of it is that there were allegations made against Satine Phoenix, who's a former community manager for Dungeons & Dragons, and her husband, Jameson Stone, of manipulation, emotional abuse, contract issues. This all came about as a result of a guy named Chad Rowe starting a Twitter thread about his experiences with the couple doing some tattooing for the couple, and that opened a floodgate of dozens of people sharing stories about these two and how they mistreated many people. My personal experience in this sphere is that I know Satine pretty well. I've never met Jameson. She moved away before I ever met Jameson. But like I've been to Satine's birthday parties. I've been to her house. I've played D&D with her before. And there was a time when I looked at her as a mentor figure. Right before I moved to Los Angeles and started doing the Broken Pact, the first season of the Broken Pact, I was very nervous. I was a nervous wreck. I was having panic attacks, not knowing how to be a live televised dungeon master. And so I asked Satine, who I knew was very experienced at San Diego Comic-Con that year, and she was nothing but kind to me. However, I also never did business with Satine, which is a lot of what the allegations here are unfulfilled contracts, of disputes having to do thereof, and things of that nature. In addition to the fact that I am not a stepping stone person. Like, I'm not big enough to be taken advantage of, I don't think. And perhaps it was because she didn't view me as a threat or some other things of that nature, but I do not have the personal experiences. I do, however, have lots of secondhand notes and text messages and emails and warnings, effectively, from friends and friends of friends saying, do not do business, do not take part in this community, keep your distance. And so it was not surprising to me to see this come out. It was disappointing, but I think that it's sort of like when all the water gets sucked out to sea right before a tsunami. I knew you could see it coming. You didn't know when, but it was going to happen. Anyway, tons of these came out. It became a huge topic, like article on Forbes, I think, about this. Like it became big news. And yeah, so that's what it's about. And if you want to go dig up more about it, feel free. I don't feel like I can speak.
Right, and I'm not saying that that this is you are the end all be all truth on this. I just thought it was definitely interesting. There's some drama involved here.
It is. And
there was a giant, mea culpa thrown out there with his apology, and then there was like every company seems to be running 100% away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And
the Monday after Origins made a statement about the two of them after they were the guests of honor at Origins this year. D&D and a Castle dropped them as partners, among other sponsorships and deals and things like that. So we're still in the middle of this maelstrom. We don't know exactly how it's going to wrap up. Satine had a Instagram live video about an hour before our show tonight. I did not tune into that. But if you're interested in learning more about this issue, feel free to go look it up. The bottom line for me is, much like Magic Twitter, TTRPG Twitter is brush fire. It goes very fast and things happen all at once. And the tabletop RPG community is a lot smaller than people think it is. It's not a lot of people. So pretty much every single person who I've seen referenced, either I've met or I have mutual friends with. It's a very small community. And when you light all of those relationships on fire and you have Twitter like it is, this is where we live. So
and this sort of in particular is an example of, while not everyone is watching, if someone were to happen to see communications that you have with people and you're treating them terribly, it's not going to go well for you. This is, treat people like, somebody's watching, or you always think somebody's going to review it. Right. Treat people with respect. Like this was weird, man. It just got really strange. If you look into the details of this, I don't know how you can treat people like that and with a straight face. Like, what are you doing?
The lawful good attitude of treat people how you want to be treated also coincides with the kind of lawful evil attitude of treat people like people are watching you treat them, right? Like it's very easy to not be a bad person ultimately, especially in a community like TTRPGs.
When I'll end on this one. When I was a teenager, at some point I read something as the internet was starting to explode, and someone said, write every email as if it's on the front of the New York Times. And I've never thought every single email I've ever written, you could put it on the front of the New York Times and I would not care, because I've never said anything weird, dumb, again, and the part of this was, and Ruben, you can attest to this, is there's sort of that silent of you don't want to be the one to throw out, this person is not treating me well.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, if you've never heard any other stories about them, if you're just this weird case of you screwed up, right? And you could read that tattooer story.
Well, yeah.
And take it that way.
I mean, the other thing is, if you're the first one through the breach, and the rest of the army follows you, great. But if you're the first one through the breach and nobody follows you, you're by yourself out in no man's land. So that's why it's so hard. Right. It
really is.
You never know which brick is going to cause the floodgate to open. And it's hard.
The only thing I'll say, I think you guys have been talking about this for a long time, so we try not to be a gossip news channel.
It's fair.
But you guys, I don't know a lot about the situation, but you said it was a tattoo artist that came forward. So I'm guessing the situation as to why a lot of people didn't come forward before is because they work in the same field. They were people creating content in the D&D space and working with wizards. And if they come out and nobody else follows up, then they kind of single themselves out for the community to backlash on them for attacking beloved figures.
Right.
So nobody wants to do that. But because we had someone outside of that space as a tattoo artist, there was really nothing that could hurt them. Who cares if the D&D community doesn't like them for what they said, which gives everybody else who had a problem the floor space to speak up, because they're not alone, which was really nice and really brave of them. But again, not a gossip podcast. I think this probably
thought it was neat, and it was it's business,
and it's important to tabletop. And it's important to have context.
Right. And I wanted Ruben here so he could give you that context. So let's say some goofy jokes about Magic. Let's turn the corner here.
Well, before we do that, let's end the show with some good D&D news.
Okay.
Which is that the Rising Tide, Battle for Baldur's Gate, the Rising Tide is out now on DM's Guild, created by our very own community member Joseph Dyer at Volrath XP.
Well, there you go.
New adventure for characters around level 10ish, available over on the MTG Goldfish site. So go check that out. I've purchased myself a copy, read through it. Nice. It's a really cool little adventure. It's a really cool urban noir mystery kind of setup set in Baldur's Gate, where I don't want to give too much away, but the players would be foisted into sort of a crime scene where a murder has been committed, and that sends people on an adventure.
All right. Well, links are in the show notes. I put the link there in the chat if you want to check that out. Let's turn the corner to the finish. Yesterday, June 15th, 2022, Microsoft officially ended support for its iconic web browser, Internet Explorer. And as we say goodbye to IE, we also say goodbye to the iconic tape delay Area 51 memes that get better as more time passes. So tell me, for this occasion, what late-to-the-party Explorer reference are you bringing back to the public consciousness, Ruben?
Well, we've had Unglued, Unhinged, and Unsanctioned, so get ready for Unexplored. And as a result, be prepared to buy 13 different versions of every card.
Heyo. Nerd Girl?
All right, well, Magic is happy to announce the big Masters expansion. From the makers of Iconic Masters, Modern Masters, and Vintage Masters comes Explorer Masters, bringing you all your favorite reprints, as long as your favorite deck includes Greasefang.
I mean, it's fine. It'll be in there as like a mythic or whatever. They'll make it hype. It'll be sweet. Well, look, in honor of Internet Explorer, I'm excited to announce the introduction of Magic's next most popular format, Alk Tiny Oath Brawler. Be sure to be the next format to be popular for 6 to 8 months and then die out immediately. Just flat. Man, that was cool, and no one plays it ever. Okay. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you next week.
Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thanks. See you later.
That's right. We're going to move on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com, and Alter Sleeves, my co-host, Nerd Girl, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.